A group of human rights activists will on Tuesday lead a procession in Nairobi to commemorate the late freedom fighter Dedan Kimathi, who was killed on the 18th of February 1957. The procession, organized by the Solidarity Committee of the Human Rights Fraternity in Kenya, will start at the Freedom Corner through Kenyatta Avenue and Kimathi Street to the Dedan Kimathi Monument, where a wreath of flowers will be laid in honor of the freedom fighter. Speaking while announcing the event, a part of the organizers decried what they called a not yet free Kenya, stating that 60 years after his death, most of the ideals that Dedan Kimathi and other freedom fighters fought for are yet to be met.
Kuwakumbusha tulikotoka na kuwaonyesha mahala tuliko, matatizo tulionayo ambayo suluhu haijapatikana, na kuwaelekeza kule mbele kwamba huu ndio wakati wa kuinuka, kusimama pamoja, kulinda harakati zilizokuwemo za kulingania uhuru wa nchi hii na harakati ambazo zilizidi baada ya uhuru wa nchi hii, kujaribu kuinyoosha nchi, kuweka katika mustakabali uliomwema zaidi ambao uliishia na katiba ya mwaka 2010.
Our activity that we are launching today is meant to refocus the entire nation. That if at this point in time in our history as a people are still going without food in Turkana, that people could still have, the freedom of the media curtailed by legislation that goes completely against the spirit and text of the Constitution.
His struggle is not finished. That's why we are here, to remind our generation that Kimathi fought for this freedom to assemble and also the freedom of the speech. But the land question has never been finished.
A section of mango farmers in Meru County are now seeking alternative crops over what they term as unprofitability of mango farming and lack of ready market for their produce. The farmers say tons of the produce are rotting in the farms. The lack of market for the mangoes has driven the price down, with a kilogram of mangoes being sold for as low as 5 shillings. Some mango farmers in Tigania East and Imenti North constituency have begun cutting down their mango trees and say they want to venture into miraa farming. Other farmers are, however, appealing to the county government to help them secure a market for their produce outside Meru County.
Tungetaka hii serikali ya jimbo ama hii ya kaunti kama ingeweza kutafutia wakulima angalau soko wapate mahali pa kuuza, sababu mali iko, soko ndio hakuna.
Ukiangalia gharama yangu ya maembe season moja ni kama 500,000. Lakini nikiwa na bahati niuze maembe ya 150,000, nitakuwa nimepata faida. So nimeamua nikate, afadhali niuze kuni ama nichome makaa.
Now, more than 100 families from Gay 2 area in Huruma Estate are now homeless following an overnight fire that razed their houses. Residents say that an electrical fault caused by the heavy downpour started the vicious fire. A 23-year-old man was killed in the inferno. By morning, residents were collecting the few belongings they could salvage from the fire and preparing to set camp in the open. This is not the first time this neighborhood has suffered such heavy loss in a blaze. They blame the recurrent fire tragedies on poor planning in Huruma, as well as the numerous electrical cables left open.
Watu kujeruhiwa, kuna mabati, watu wamekatwa, hizi nyumba pia zilikuwa na gorofa juu, watu wameporomokewa, watu wamejeruhiwa vibaya.
Kwanza narudia MP wetu na council at least kidogo atakaa hata kama hayuko karibu. Kidi MP jo ako Mombasa anaogelea na maji ya chumvi, raia yake inaumia hapa. Ni mara ya pili ametufanya hivyo. Next time akasema, last time alisema ati ako Mombasa hako holiday, hawezi shughulika na kazi kaa hiyo. Lakini asisahau, ni vile nimesahau kura kwa nyumba tu. Ni miaka hiyo tu imebaki. 4 tu atakam. Na katiba inasema jo ajichunge tusimchuje mapema.
Now, a section of leaders from the Orange Democratic Party want the February 28th party elections postponed. Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero and his Kakamega counterpart Wycliffe Oparanya says the ODM elections are dividing the party. Kidero wants party leader Raila Odinga to unify all party delegates before the party elections. Oparanya, who is vying for the deputy party leader position, says he will not step down for anyone, citing that the elections have created too many rifts within ODM.
Najua tuko na election za party hivi karibuni. I want to plead with our party leader that if he doesn't postpone the elections, the party might not do very well. It's a national party. So I want to plead with our party leader that let him postpone the elections, alete watu wa ODM pamoja, ndio aitishe election saa zingine.
I was the founder member of ODM. Sasa niwaje niende wapi? Niwachie nani? Niwachie nani? Na niliunda hii chama. Hatutaki tuwe kama makabila, kila kabila na chama chake, kila kabila. Hiyo ndio mpango wa Jubilee.
From Kilifi County, residents now want the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and National Land Commission to institute investigations against a Kilifi County Member of Parliament whom they have accused of being involved in land-grabbing deals. Carrying effigy of the alleged MP, they claim the MP has been collaborating with senior lands officers direct from the county to National Lands Office to aid him grab the lands. The protesters also alleged the land grabbers target lands and settlement schemes which had been purposely set by the national government to set the landless people. According to residents, the accused MPs say to have been involved in many irregular land deals at Chembe, Kibaba and Muche settlement scheme in Watamu. The demonstrators who took their complaints to the Kilifi County Commissioner's office called for immediate action to help prevent land conflicts in the area.
Grabbing of our land in Kilifi County. Tumechoka unyakuzi wa ardhi katika kaunti yetu ya Kilifi. Hii ni memorandum yetu sisi ambayo imeongozwa na Self Community Youth Initiative.
A section of youth have called for an end to politicization of government projects. The youth accuse business cartels eyeing tenders for lucrative government projects for sponsoring politicians to scuttle such projects aimed at benefiting Kenyans. The youth also called on government to ensure the youth are not marginalized in a word of government tenders.
Who are these hidden schemers behind the lynching of selectively identified state officers? 2, who are the real beneficiaries behind the noise and allegation leveled against officers whose dockets hold key to huge government tenders? Kandarasi ikipeanwa unasikia story. Mtu akikosa tenda anapiga story. Wakati umefika ya kwamba Wakenya especially vijana tumechoka na mkanganyiko ambao hatuelewi sisi. Tumeona mambo ya rapto. Watu wanapinga tu for no reason. Kwa sababu watu wa kandarasi wameshika inchi kama mali yao. We are calling them tenderpreneurs. Kazi yao tu ni kutafuta tenda. Wakikosa hao wanatafuta wanasiasa, wanatafuta baadhi ya watu huku nje, civil societies kupiga kelele.
Rongai Member of Parliament Raymond Moi has praised retired President Daniel Arap Moi's commitment to the growth of the education sector in the country. The legislator pointed to the many educational institutions that Moi founded and the success enjoyed over the years. Moi encouraged parents to take their children to school to secure their future and move the country forward.
And you might have in a primary school like this, you might have maybe 5 teachers sponsored by TSC, and the rest are, the burden is carried by parents. And as we know, we're going through very extreme and difficult economic times. Parents cannot sustain that. Parents cannot. So the government should give us teachers sponsored by TSC, so the performance in these other schools can be compared to the performance here at Moi Primary School. I would seriously urge the government. This is our undoing in Nakuru County. We need government intervention in schools.
Most estates in Nairobi have in the recent past experienced consistent water and electricity shortage, even with much talk about making Nairobi a 24-hour city and more conducive for investment. But despite the shortage, residents say they are still receiving utility bills from water and power companies. Is Nairobi life on an upward or downward scale? Catherine Mwantho went round the city estates to see for herself how this perennial water and electricity scarcity is affecting residents.
Masitsa Ambaya sticks to the Saturday afternoon routine. She needs at least a week's supply of water for her family.
I think I'd say when I was small. That's the last time I think I remember seeing, particularly in our house, water coming from the taps.
Her house, just like everyone else's at high-rise estate, is full of jerry cans. Even the smallest container will do the job of storing enough water for her household's needs. She gets her water supply from Mary Auma, a water vendor.
Siku yenye maji hakuna high rise, tunauza maji shilingi 30, na kama hakuna kabisa tunaingia huko ndani kibila huko chini kabisa, tunauza maji 40 au 50 kwa mtungi moja kama hii jerrycan.
Masitsa's water meter no longer serves its purpose. She says that despite not having water flow through her taps, the Nairobi Water and Sewage Company continues to bill her for their apparent services.
Bills of water that have come, like for example, we had a meter and there was no water that was coming through. But at the end of the month, we received a bill which didn't make sense because we weren't getting water.
Umoja is another estate experiencing the same situation.
Shida ya maji imekuwa kwa muda mrefu hapa, tumekuwa tukiuza maji kuanzia tangu 2008. Kama mimi nimeanza kuuza maji tangu 2008, maji ndio nilianza hii kazi ya maji. Sasa ni almost 6 years to 7 years.
Nairobi Water is the single supplier of water to homes, same as the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, which is constantly accused of laxity. One does not need to look far. On the KPLC official Twitter handle, there are complaints of interrupted power supply from all corners of Nairobi County and even beyond. The amount of complaints seem to increase during the rainy seasons. If the two companies mandated to supply homes with crucial commodities like water and electricity cannot find a solution to the perennial water and power supply shortage, perhaps it's time the two had competitors to keep them on their toes. Catherine Mwantho, KTN.
Dozens of women from Tanzania are crossing into Kenya to seek maternal services in public hospitals in Taita Taveta County. According to the management of the Taveta District Hospital, the number of women delivering at the health facility has doubled since the government introduced free maternal health care. The hospital says the Tanzanians who border Kenya on the Taveta side have taken advantage of the free services, as many of them were delivering at home due to lack of health facilities on their side. The hospital says it has been offering services to all women who come to the hospital for free. However, the hospital is now overstretched by the increasing numbers.
Wale wamama ambao wanazalia nyumbani wafike hapa hospitalini wapate huduma za hospitali kuliko kuzalia nyumbani.
We are having nurses working more hours than normal. Actually, we've had to revert their shift. Before that, we used to do 6-hour shift. Now we had to go up to 8 hours, and sometimes we are being forced to go up to 12-hour shift per nurse.
French and African peacekeepers have seized weapons from militia in the capital of the strife-torn Central African Republic, but failed to detain a wanted leader of the rogue groups. The international troops went house to house for about 4 hours in Bangui Boys Rabe neighborhood, the base of mostly Christian militias whose attacks have driven many minority Muslims from the city in the recent weeks, sparking warnings of ethnic cleansing. Automatic weapons, grenades, a large number of ammunition were seized in the operation that involved some 250 peacekeepers and police. But despite surrounding the house of a senior militia leader, Patrice Eduardo, the soldiers failed to capture the man who cast himself as a political coordinator of the fearsome anti-Balaka militias. Amnesty International this week warned that violence in Central Africa has grown into an ethnic cleansing campaign, while the United Nations Refugee Agency has described the situation as a humanitarian catastrophe of unspeakable proportions. An online game of drink and dare called Neck Nominate is fueling a deadly worldwide craze, but the bravado has escalated into extreme cocktails. The rules of the game are simple. People film themselves necking or downing a large drink and nominate a friend or friends in a dare to break their own record. Here is more on that story.
Here's the nomination list. Today what I've got for you guys will be a brand new, just opened as you heard, seal of Sambuca here. Got some Wicked as well, and it is a pint, I do believe.
This is how it all begins.
Okay.
A nomination followed by cocktails of spirits. The game is called Neck Nominate and is thought to have originated in Australia. Now it's sweeping through Britain.
I name nominee Joe, George, Chris. You've got 24 hours, lads. Get it done.
But what started for some as a game has already begun to claim lives. 4 victims, all men under 30.
This is a lethal game. The point about alcohol is that it affects your ability to recognise that you're in danger, and it absolutely affects your ability to react to danger. So we have a double whammy here.
Thanks for the nomination, Rob.
The premise of the game is simple. People film themselves necking or downing a large drink. The majority of times it's alcoholic and of large quantities. Then they post them onto social media, be it Facebook or YouTube, and then they nominate a friend to outdo them. If the friend denies the challenge, they are ridiculed on Facebook or Twitter. Each nomination becomes more and more daring and outlandish. It started as exhibitionism, with this woman stripping in a supermarket and downing a drink. But the bravado has escalated into extreme cocktails. This one mixes spirits with a dead mouse, among other things. Not surprisingly, the trend has politicians calling for schools to play a bigger role.
So what role does the Secretary of State believe that schools have in building resilience in our young people to resist peer pressure?
Brian Viner, whose own son has played the game, says responsibility must come from Facebook, which still today displays adverts next to videos of people taking part in the challenges. He told me his son was nominated and pressured to play the game, but drank water instead of vodka so as not to harm himself.
When you found out about it, when you found out the fact that your son had done something like this, how did it make you feel?
Cross with him, but more cross really with the social media involved, and the way that this game has just spread. You know, the whole thing is madness, and it needs some kind of sharp and swift action on the part of these social networks to stop it.
Well, in a statement to CNN, Facebook says, "We do not tolerate content which is directly harmful, for example, bullying. But behavior which some people might find offensive or controversial is not always necessarily against our rules. We encourage people to report things to us which they feel breaks our rules, so we can review and take action on a case-by-case basis." But to stop this once and for all, Dr. Sarah Jarvis says Facebook must recognise its own role in the game.
It's very difficult in this day of personal liberties to say that Facebook shouldn't be condoning this. It should be taking these videos offline. Personally, I'd like to see that happening because, frankly, if the thrill wasn't there because your mates weren't seeing you, I suspect it would very rapidly fizzle out.
Whether it's a fleeting craze or a long-term trend, one thing is clear. This is a game where no one wins. Isa Suarez, CNN, London.
If you're afraid of heights, the next story might make you feel dizzy. But what does it take to clean the windows of the world's tallest building in the world? Meet the people in Dubai who do it on a daily basis.
When they built the world's tallest building, Dubai's Burj Khalifa, it was covered in 24,000 separate panes of glass. Deepak Gal's job is keeping them clean. The work is interesting and the view is beautiful, he tells me. Deepak is one of around 60 migrant workers, mostly from Nepal, India, and the Philippines, who clean windows here. And in this dusty desert climate, there's plenty of work for them. They start at the very tip top. We're standing on the 159th floor of the Burj Khalifa. Now, that's about 35 stories higher than most tourists get to go. It doesn't sound that high, perhaps, but if you come over here, take a look over the edge, I think you might change your mind. It's more than 2,700 feet, or nearly a kilometer, straight down. Certainly not a job for the faint of heart, especially when you're rappelling. When the inspections are done, they step out over the edge and get down to business. It'll take them 3 months to clean each and every window, and then they start all over again. The building's contractor, though, says rope access is still the most efficient way to get the job done. For Deepak, it's also a decent living. As a new recruit, he can make over $600 a month, much more than he'd earn as a construction worker building skyscrapers like this one. My mom always asks me why I do this and says it looks dangerous, he tells me. She wants me to come back to Nepal and get a regular job, but I tell them no, I like it, and this is a good living. And he says, just another day at the office. John Jensen, CNN, Dubai.